Hello everybody, it's Colin Ellis here. Welcome to another Culture and Coffee podcast. It's Monday the 11th of April 2022. I've got all the noises going on around me here. Sat by a nice water feature. I can't quite, it looks like it's in the shape of somebody's head. I don't know. Also by a road, and I'm in Palm Springs, which, if you don't know, is in California. And it's in the Coachella Valley in the Colorado Desert in California. I'm actually recording this 4 days before the start of the music festival. It's a famous music festival that happens here every year. Obviously, during the pandemic, there was a bit of a pause. And it's not far from here. And so Palm Springs, I don't know, it's maybe a 15-minute drive, something like that. Maybe about 20, 25-minute drive. And all the accommodation here in Palm Springs gets completely booked up. This year's festival is being headlined by Billie Eilish, Harry Styles, and it was supposed to be Ye, who formerly known as Kanye West, of course, but he pulled out recently. So I think The Weeknd is playing here. Maybe Swedish House Mafia, maybe they're playing as well. Anyway, so Palm Springs, famous for its hot springs, hence the springs part of its name. So the first humans to settle here, I love this place by the way, the first humans to settle here were the Kauai people, who arrived here about 2,000 years ago. They call the place Siki, which is indigenous language, and its translation is boiling water. So Mexican explorers were the first to really document the hot water found here. They called it agua caliente. And so they documented it in the 1820s. And then the Spanish arrived in the 1850s and referred to the area as Las Palmas de la Mano de Dios, or the palm of God's hand. So there's the Palm Springs, there you go. It became popular in the early 1900s as kind of health tourists swamped the place. And then, of course, just like that, clicks fingers, it became a kind of magnet for the rich and famous. Some of my favourite people have lived here. So Dean Martin, Elvis Presley, Cary Grant. And the architecture here is absolutely stunning. And not only that, like where I'm sat here, which is opposite the Ace Hotel, which is the south end of Palm Springs, like I've got this view over the mountains, which are right behind. And there's a cable car that you can take that goes all the way up, and it's like snow on the top. So even though it's 32 degrees centigrade today, it's been 100 degrees recently. I'm making it sound like it's a really bad thing. Obviously, I love the heat. Because as a palm, I was deprived of it, as an Englishman, deprived of it as a child. But Mount San Jacinto is behind it. It's an absolutely stunning place. I just love it here. It's got really strict noise regulations. Some interesting things about Palm Springs. Interesting noise regulations. So, to kind of make sure that people are respectful. There's literally no noise allowed after 9 o'clock. So you can't play booming music. And I think that's why I love it. I've only ever been here once before, but I felt such an affinity with the place in terms of somewhere where you can go and just relax and get away from it all. I imagine it's brutal in the summer. I think that the temperatures get up to like 44, 45 degrees centigrade. So what's that? I don't know, like 108, 110 degrees. So that would be pretty hot. But this time of year when I'm recording this, nature just absolutely stunning and beautiful. So yes, welcome to Palm Springs. So Nina asked the question. Hello, Nina. Well, two questions to replace one. Firstly, is the trip business or pleasure? Well, it's actually pleasure and business, so it's that way round, Nina. And this all stems from kind of when I first started working for myself. We had no money, we had nothing. And so what I attempted to do was, if I could tag a family holiday onto a work trip, that's what I would try and do, kind of kill two birds with one stone, because the business was picking up the tab for the accommodation. If you're dealing with revenue, listen to this, it's all above board. I've got all my receipts to prove everything. Yeah, so that's what I did, and so that's what there's still a bit of me that still tries to do that. So that was the first question. So it's pleasure first, and then a bit of business. I'm just going to have a drink of my coffee actually, which is roasted by Koffi, Koffi, here in Palm Springs. I'm just going to have a quick sip of it. I got a cold brew because it's so warm, and it's delicious. And the second question was, what do I think of Starbucks? Well, so they do a really nice nitro brew, which is almost like, it's like a pressurized coffee. It's got like a creamy, foamy head, which I absolutely love their nitro brew. But, you know, Starbucks as a company has got a pretty good culture. It never used to have. And I think they've worked hard at that over the last kind of 5-10 years. I know for a fact, I remember speaking to someone I spoke at a conference here about 3-4 years ago, and spoke to someone from Starbucks, and I was like, oh, I'm just interested in what they like. They're like, oh, it's awesome to work there because they give the employees great benefits. He said, like, you know, we're always understaffed, we're always really busy, and we just can never get enough people. But the benefits are great, so I think they do have a really good culture. Listen, all of the pumpkin spice, all of that nonsense, that's not for me. Look, I'm not judging you if you drink all of that, like, it's great, but just remember, you're not really drinking coffee if you're just having a big cup of hot milk. And don't be surprised if you're tired afterwards and want to go to bed. Right? Actually, that makes me sound like I am judging you, like I'm being really snobby. I'm not. But yeah, they have a good culture, and I like their nitro brew. So there's your two questions, Nina. Thank you. Let's talk about today. We're talking about scaling culture. I spoke to a startup just about 4 weeks ago, obviously before I left to come to the US. And they were talking about how they were going to triple in size or quadruple in size, triple in size. And they were saying, oh, you know, kind of what tips have you got? I was like, well, the first thing to remember is that the culture that kind of got you here won't get you there. It's that famous Jim Collins quote, what got you here won't get you there. You know, what do you think he was talking about, the bus? He was talking about culture, and essentially, well, you know, kind of what made you successful was good at that point in time. It was good to get you where you needed to be. But in terms of growing them further, well, you have to scale, and you kind of have to grow. You know, you've got lots and lots of new people who are joining the organisation, so you can't keep the culture that you have. It has to constantly grow. I'm working with a global tech company, and they're looking to triple their workforce. Same deal. So I've been helping them with the redefinition of their culture. Because what you need to do is to make sure that the new people feel part of something. It's almost like a software operating system. Like, you know, we're not all still running Windows 95 because it's just not fit for purpose today. So we have to keep upgrading. And yes, I know from time to time things goes backwards. Actually, it's a good metaphor for culture because sometimes that happens. If it's not done properly, if it's not done right, or else if it just stays the same, then what you'll end up with is something that stagnates. Now, cultures evolve all of the time. And so organizations need to think about, well, how do we positively evolve this culture all the time, you know? And I've said on the podcast before that organizations should be looking to redefine their culture, you know, kind of every 18 months, you know, in line with the vision that the organization has, or at least every 3 years, at a minimum. You want to redefine your culture every 3 years. But every year you want to do some kind of culture review to make sure that it's evolving in the way that it has. Now, the issues that startups often have is they have this kind of crazy period of growth where money is no object. And interestingly, at that time when money is no object, they very, very rarely invest in culture. I remember the startup that I'm working with, they were like, oh, you must get requests from startups all the time. I'm like, I get 0 requests, like you're the first for a while that I've had, because they typically buy the office space, buy the equipment, buy all the flash furniture, and then they just let the culture evolve kind of in line with what they need to get done. Now, Now, often it's staffed by people that aren't really thinking about that, and it's only when the business grows that they start thinking about, well, how do we scale it? So how do we go from this rapid growth mode to something that, kind of grows with the company? And really interesting case study for those who are interested in this stuff is Uber. Because Uber, and Travis Kalanick there was the founder of Uber, and he didn't scale the culture. As the founder, he didn't scale the culture with the business. And he's a very confronting, isn't it? Similar to Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. These really direct, they know what they want kind of individuals. But he just didn't scale the culture, and unfortunately, behaviourally, he didn't grow and evolve with the culture either. And he ended up getting sacked from his own company in 2017. And he wrote himself a letter. This is really interesting. He wrote himself a letter, and he said many things in the letter. If you just Google Travis Kalanick, Kalanick, letter never sent, I don't know, something like that. But he said lots of things in the letter, but the thing that stuck with me most of all is at the start of the letter he said, over the last 7 years our company has grown a lot, but it hasn't grown up. And I thought, yeah, how true is that of, many organisations, that they grow but they don't grow up? Now, he was pretty brutal, he was pretty honest with himself in there, because he included himself in that. He never grew up either. He lost his job and he learned from the experience, and obviously he's gone on to do other things. But he decided that, that's what he'd learned most of all, that the company has to grow up as it grows. Now, I work with lots of teams who recognise that they have to grow, not in startups to be fair, but I work with lots and lots of teams who recognise the need for evolution. I'll be working with one couple of weeks where they've had lots of new people, at least half the team is new. And the last time I worked with them was like 3 years ago. And half the team are new, and they said we need to do a refresh. We need to recognise that we've got new people. Also, the business has doubled in that time, and so what they want to do is to build a culture that's fit for the team that they are now, not the team that they were. And so this is when it comes to actually scaling the culture, there has to be that recognition that when you bring new people in, what they want to do is to be part of something new and evolving, not something old. Now, of course, what you don't do is redefine the culture every time you add a new member of staff, but it's something that you need to keep front of mind every year. You need to be looking at how many new team members you've got. I worked with the team at the start of this year, and they had 6 new team members, and they said, okay, we need to redefine the way that we do things, such that we can evolve to become the team that we need to be and achieve high performance. High performance doesn't happen by chance. I remember reading an interview with Daniel Ek, who's the CEO of Spotify, and he said it wasn't like Spotify was amazing from day one. He said the idea and the culture has evolved over time, and of course it has. And if the culture doesn't evolve over time, then you're unlikely to be able to attract the kind of people that you need so that the business evolves over time and you hit the heights and get the results that you're looking for. Ed Catmull, who was the CEO of Pixar Studios? I think he was the CEO of Pixar Studios, but he wrote a book called Creativity Inc., which I really liked. And he said that no creative company should ever stop evolving. Now, every organisation should be creative in its own way. Every organisation should. They should be constantly kind of growing and evolving to meet the challenges of tomorrow, whilst making sure that customers are served today. And yes, there's an element of experimenting with culture, but there's also the need to redefine where you are at that moment in time, such that people get that sense of connection, that sense of belonging, and that they don't feel that they're being held back by an old culture. Now, I don't know about you, but I've worked in a few of these kind of old-fashioned cultures where the culture's been dictated like the longest serving employee. So someone's been there for 20 years and it's like, oh, you'll learn. That's the way that we do things around here. And I remember working for one organisation, which I left after 9 months, and they said, oh, good people always leave. I was like, yeah, well, maybe that's an indication. I was passed over for a senior management job because they said that we're not looking for a culture person. I was like, okay, fair enough. All right, well, this isn't. If you're not looking for someone who's really good at culture, this is not the place for me. And then, kind of when I resigned, she was like, oh, we were worried this might happen. This organisation doesn't keep good people. I was like, maybe you should hire some more culture people then, to make sure that the organisation grows up. And so you're attracting adults who want to be part of something that's fit for tomorrow, not just the past. And so you can't ignore this constant evolution of culture. And so practically what can you do? Well, you can do simple things to get to know each other. And as I'm recording this, kind of restrictions are lifting around the pandemic. This is an opportunity to bring people back face to face. I've mentioned this. If you're able to do that, make sure you're doing it in a safe way, in line with all of the guidelines and all of that other good advice. But this is that opportunity to reconnect. I was talking to someone at a hotel bar the other night, and I was talking to there's a conference in the hotel that we were staying at, and I was talking to one of the delegates, as you do, and he's like, it's so great to do this. He said to me, he said conferences was something that I did once a year. He said, and I would really pick the ones that I would get the most benefit from. And he said, I didn't realise how much I got from the interactions with other people until it was gone. He said, and now, said it's just great to be back. He said, I really missed this. I thought it was really, really interesting. So yeah, so reconnect, get to know people's personalities, kind of what have they learned about themselves over the intervening period of time. What you want to do is you want to redefine the behaviours that you need to demonstrate towards each other in order to achieve whatever the next goal is. And there's got to be an acceptance that where you've come from, there's some really good stuff that you've done. You want to carry forward with you all of the positive attributes of the culture. As I've said many, many times, you don't want to throw everything out. You want to capture all that's good. And if you're able to bring the team together, then you want to celebrate that as well. I think we get a lot as humans from that celebration and that recognition. You also then want to talk about, okay, well, when it comes to actually collaborating and working together, then how are we going to do it? Now, this takes consideration the technology that you use, the face-to-face interactions that you have, and again, talk about some of the stuff that doesn't work quite so well, and then come up with some, principles about how you'll address it. And so these are the kinds of things that I will do over a couple of days with teams. You can do these things yourself, to actually write down and define what it means to work within that team for the next 12 months. What you don't want to do is give an old car a new paint job, because underneath it's still an old car. You really want to tune it up. You want to look at the parts. I don't know where I'm going with this car metaphor, so I'm just going to stop using a car analogy. I'm just going to not use it. But you know what I mean, right? There are bits that need replacing. I'm going to go back and do it again. There are bits that need replacing. Sometimes the driver needs replacing. And that's the thing, is when you scale the culture, when you redefine what's required moving forward, there may be some people that you have to lose on the way. There may be some people who are like, oh, I don't want to be part of this new culture, and you have to go, okay, well, that's a shame, because you can really contribute. We'll make sure that we give you a good reference. Now, I had a question once from someone who said, what happens if the person doesn't want to be part of the new culture? I'm like, well, if they're a good human being, if they contribute, if they do all of the things, then naturally they're part of the new culture. Everything else, they're just opting out of the team. And what they're saying is, I want to work on my own and not part of a team. And obviously there's things that you can do to make sure they feel involved, to make sure that they're able to contribute to the definition of this, the scaling of the culture. You want, it's that classic taking them on the journey. any senior manager, you have to make sure that you're proactive in the way that you build and evolve culture. You can't lead people. This is why senior leaders can't just decide the culture and then tell everybody else. It just doesn't work. I also think as well that the best time to evolve the culture is when things are good. I know that sounds obvious, but when things are broken, then you lose all of your good people and you end up retaining the people that you quite like to lose. You know what I mean, right? And so kind of when things are good and you state your intent to evolve the culture and you either run workshops or whatever it is that you bring people to help you, it's a statement of intent. It's a statement that actually we're going well, but we want to go further. We've got plans to grow. We've got plans to get better. So we're going to involve everybody who's been involved in our success so far. We're going to involve all of you guys to define what that looks like moving forward, because we want you to be part of it in the future. So yeah, that's just some insights on how you scale culture. I mean, what you don't want to do is just be ordinary. One of my favourite quotes is from Mindset by Carol Dweck, and she said, the scariest thought, which I really entertain, is the possibility of being ordinary. Don't be ordinary. Constantly look at how you can grow, evolve and scale your culture to meet the challenges of tomorrow. Hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. Stay safe wherever you are. Don't forget, if you want to join our community of practitioners, you can do that at www.culturemakers.community. We'd love to have you as a member. Otherwise, I'll speak to you next week on the Culture and Koffi podcast.